Jennifer Powell, host of Take a Look, a time together where we look at people, organizations, and culture in Lancaster County. Today's guest is the illustrious Janine James. When you click on her website, you see this radiant smile glowing through from a beautiful soul. And in bright black letters, you see the words, "Everyday insights, good for the mind, body, and soul." And that's why you're going to want to get to know Janine James. Welcome, Janine. Tell us a little bit about yourself and Soul Food Mondays.
Thank you so much. First of all, when you said that, I was like, it's impossible not to smile with that kind of an intro. So I am a writer, a storyteller, and a creative consultant. And Soul Food Mondays came out of, its original iteration was through a blog called Miss Mariposa. And it was kind of, I felt bass backwards into vlogging with that, in which I had a username on Instagram, and then I just turned that into a blog because people kept on asking questions like, where did you get that, or what is this? And so I said, well, let me just write it in a blog post. And that was back in maybe 2012. And so I was writing Miss Mariposa. It kind of became different iterations, and then as my career in my day job started to take off, I ended up ending that and closing that chapter. And then over and over again, my friends, my family would be like, so when are you bringing back Miss Mariposa? When is that happening? And also when I would do speaking engagements or, MC for different events or do talks on different topics that were important to me, I didn't have a space to collect them. So people were just sending random links, and they were like, I wanted to send so-and-so this link about what you talked about. And we had this amazing conversation. I wish my friend knew about this conversation. And that's when I realized these conversations are too important not to have. And, anyone who's watching, I'm a little bit of a nerd, so you're going to have to allow me to nerd out. But Spider-Man has the saying, like, with great power comes great responsibility. And I think that can also be attributed to, we can also take that to, with great privilege comes great responsibility. Yes. And I have been so privileged to have amazing people in my life who have shared their wisdom and their guidance, and I have a wealth of information that I've been given, and so I think it's my responsibility to share it with my community.
Oh, that is wonderful. It's so inspiring as well. And Miss Mariposa in Spanish means a butterfly. Mm-hmm. So there's a little bit of this metamorphosis that goes through. And I think we can all relate to that in our own lives. And now the evolution of what has come from that particular starting point to, your professional career, to back at, what feels good to your soul.
Yes.
And so Soul Food Mondays. Okay. So what are we thinking of when is it food? Is it, just tell us sort of where that came from, the evolution from Miss Mariposa to now Soul Food Mondays.
So I used to have a segment called Soul Food Thursdays because it was a part of the posting schedule. And this one, I thought Soul Food Mondays was a little bit more catchy. But really the idea was we have these moments, oftentimes if you're of Christian faith or other faiths, that you worship on a particular day. For many Christians, it's Sunday. And there's Sunday soul food. I am from the Black church and the Black family, and so after church you have that like fried chicken, mac
dinner.
And cheese.
Yeah.
You have that soul food in that moment where you're gathering and connecting with others. And so Soul Food Mondays has a kind of dual meaning that I am definitely a foodie, and so there are tons of recipes. I'm going to have some restaurants that we'll be reviewing and things like that, to have that food that literally is good for the soul and good for community. I think that the best, most important conversations usually happen when you're sitting down,
right,
relaxed,
right,
eating something delicious. But then with soul food, in terms of the lessons that we get and the inspiration, a lot of it comes from my own faith and my faith journey. From scriptures and things like that, but a lot of it also comes from other spiritual inspiration and other insights that we have. And so I wanted to take that sacred relational feeling of a Sunday and bring it to the everyday. And so that's where that tagline comes from, everyday insights that are good for the mind, body, and soul. So it's not separating these two selves, that, oh, this is me when I'm being spiritual, this is me when I'm being serious and staid, but this is me through beauty, through fashion, through travel and food. Also finding that inspiration in what it means to me, that every choice that we make is guided by those belief systems. And so if we can be more inspired, more intentional around our everyday experiences with this blog, that is my hope and my intention for creating this space.
Oh, Janine, that's wonderful. And I reviewed and looked at the website, and that's going to be coming out for you all. But one of the things that just really resonated with me personally was you said you were going to share your life. And just sort of that, not necessarily exposure, but just the reality and authenticity. And you said you are going to share your small wins and maybe some big wins, but also, some of the losses, which in real life it's wins and there are some challenges. So I love that you are looking to be so authentic and putting that out there. And I'm just, wondering like what sort of inspired that transparency to say, I'm going to share my losses as well.
Yes, I think that with the age of social media, I think I'm chronically online. I'm too online, and I'm constantly consuming content, and I think that there is a shift that's happening now. Like when I was originally creating content, it was this perfect, image, and that there's so many different selves that we're presenting, selves that are perfect and whole and put together and are never embarrassed, never cringy, if, I'm using the term. And now we're seeing a shift towards people want authenticity. And I think that, there's so many lessons that I've learned and so many epiphanies or revelations, however you want to call them. Right. And unfortunately, most of those lessons have not come from my wins.
Right, but that's life, right?
That's life. Those moments of real transformation and growth, if I look and measure, there have been lessons that I've learned when I have given a speech seamlessly, in front of 300 people. There's lessons that I've learned from that, and they're about here. And then when we think about the times where I have failed epically, the lessons and the growth is here, because the pain of that experience, maybe some of the embarrassment of that, and then the overcoming of shame. In that experience, I've learned so much more. And I'm definitely someone who is a perfectionist. I like things to be done well. I like things to be done right. Yeah. However, I'm learning there's so much more that I can gain. And so this is kind of exposure therapy for failure, even with the blog itself. In doing it, I'm doing everything myself. So I came up with my own logo. I built the blog by hand, and then I, write and edit and shoot all of the pictures and things like that and do the recipes. Right. So when things were not following, the timeline that I had in mind, I was tempted to be like, okay, well, I'm not going to say anything. I'm just going to quietly stand over here while it's getting together. And I was really challenged that my sister-in-law said, Neen, this is what this is. Yes. This is what you said you wanted to do. Yes. You wanted to share your life. Yeah. You wanted to invite people to grow with you. And so even when it's not exactly as you envisioned, and I still think it's, pretty good.
It's fantastic.
But when it's not meeting your own expectations and the ways that we're hard on ourselves, this is another example. It's another time to say, okay, this is what I have. This is my little offering. Right. And because I do believe in God, I think that when we just show up as our best selves, then I do believe that's honored. And I think that I can't get better if I never start. And that's the thing that I tell myself over and over again when I'm trying something new, whether it's a new career, whether it's a new relationship or a new project and endeavor or brand. You can't get better. You can't measure your growth if you just stay where you are, and it stays in this kind of metaphysical idea rather than something for folks to look at and visit. And so I encourage people to engage with the content, definitely leave comments, and also submit things that you'd like to talk about. And And so that way we can collaboratively storytell.
Yeah, it's interactive. I noticed that you put that invitation out for people to provide input, to make recommendations, and you want it to be a journey together. But that, going back and outside of that comfort zone, we're very similar in the sense that, I want it to be perfect. I want it to be right. What is right, kind of thing. But, to know that life isn't right and life isn't always perfect. And so to be able to come out and walk together, and you're putting that invitation out to people that are subscribing, to people who are checking in, who are engaging, to be a part of this. And you're saying, I'm going to put myself out there, but that's okay, because that's life. That's the reality of life. And so I think, you're going to inspire others as they read this content. And I just was so excited when we started talking about this, and I did dig in a little bit.
Awesome.
And I loved, so there's going to be recipes, food recipes. Right now there's a recipe about making a green juice drink without a juicer. I don't have a juicer. I have a blender. I had a juicer back when they weren't really popular, but now it's like, so tell us, what is your inspiration for your recipes? What are you hoping to kind of share with others? Because soul food, when I think of soul food, I do think of sometimes might not be categorized as the healthiest.
Yes.
But that's okay. That's okay. It's tradition, it's culture. But the green juice was not, I was like, is this soul food?
Yes.
So I'd love to just hear how you're thinking about bringing these recipes and
So my hope is that with the site that the food will be good for your body as well as your soul. I do think that there's some foods, and especially from cultures, that are just because of their traditions, because of where they come from, based on your cultural background, they're good for your soul. Having a full-fat cupcake is good for your soul, and it's good for your mental health. Eat the cupcake.
Yes.
However, with a green juice, for instance, a lot of people think that they're getting healthy things when they're just pulling a green juice off the shelf, and they don't realize that sometimes it has up to 50 calories.
And the sugar.
Sugars, 50 grams of sugar. And I was like, oh my goodness, this is a diet. This is a Coca-Cola, a full can of Coca-Cola. And so when there are times where we can make things healthier, when we can redo a recipe and do it ourselves, I also want to make cooking, food experiences more accessible.
Yes.
I think that there's a way that we can kind of gatekeep our recipes in health and wellness, and it can become something that is only for those who have financial privilege or privilege of time. And I have a dog. I'm not, I don't have a family, but I'm a single parent of a dog.
A dog is just like a kid.
It's just like a kid. And I'm working. I also have ADHD, and anyone who has that can tell you that it's tough sometimes to have that executive function, to have this whole recipe for coq au vin on a Monday, right? So my hope is that we can simplify things so that we can eat well, enjoy our food, enjoy the time of taking care of ourselves, but also have healthier bodies. And so having that balance. So you will see a recipe for coq au vin because I love it.
I hope so.
And you will, have some recommendations about different restaurants to try, but then there's also going to be recipes that are good for your body and good for your health. And especially as a woman of color, oftentimes there are higher likelihoods of certain diseases based off of our ACE scores, which is adverse childhood experiences. As well as other different things that make it difficult for us to live healthful lives. And so I want this to be accessible to everyone, no matter your race, no matter your age. I want you to be able to encounter this and then share your own recipes. So if you have a recipe from Hungary that you think is really great, I'm hoping that you'll share it with me, and we can kind of share those things and connect around food. And that's the quickest way. I taught ESL, English as a second language, and at the end of every semester we would have a party and everyone would bring food from their culture.
Oh, I love it.
And I hope that that same experience happens here, where we can share a bit of ourselves and enjoy that communion and that experience together.
Well, community is food and community go hand in hand. And even the opening on the website talks about how, getting together with friends or family around a table that's how, the magic, the connection, the community, as I said, happens. And so I think, having the recipes that, let's face it, we all, okay, let me talk about myself. I, desire to eat healthier, and I do eat healthier, but let me tell you, I do enjoy a cupcake.
Yes,
I do
100%.
enjoy fried foods, and give me a good burger or, things like that. So, recognizing that those are part of what brings us joy, for me, brings me joy.
Yes.
But knowing that getting together with our friends, our family, community around a meal, and the inclusivity of it can be healthy, it can be maybe not so healthy, it can be ethnically diverse. And you said racially, and also gender.
Yes.
We talked about the inclusivity of this website and your desire for it to resonate beyond those that identify as a woman, or that can go beyond just race, gender, age, and just invite community together.
That was another reason for the name change as well, and why I really felt good about leaving Miss Mariposa behind, is that when you hear Miss, you're like, oh, this is not for me.
Right.
And I had some followers who were faithful followers, and they would repost and things with no shame, like, I don't care, this is for me. She talked about lipstick, but she's also talking about this.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
However, I hope that, men who have been chefs, there's all kinds of ways that men are included in food and in fashion. My brother is very much the sartorialist and loves the clothes. And so I want this conversation to be all are welcome. And I think that, once again, that reason for soul food is that experience, I've had it around tables.
Yes.
That when I visited friends,
Yes.
visited their families, they're like, come on in.
Come on in.
And you're welcome. It doesn't
down.
matter, where you're from
That's so
or
true.
what you're doing, but in your voice matters too. And so that welcoming feeling, I hope that people feel, I belong here.
Yes.
And I hope that there's something for everyone.
Yes.
And if there's not, that they can kind of give that, hey, can you do this for me?
Yes.
I'm interested in this. I'm hoping for that feedback and that community, because that's what real relationships are.
Right.
And that's what makes life worth living,
Yes.
is that spontaneity and that engagement, that back and forth, and that growth and learning. That there's only so much I know now. I think I have a lot
Right.
that I've gained and experienced, but I'm so excited for a year from now.
Yes.
And how much more will I know from our community? And it's so great that I live in Lancaster now.
Yes, because you're not an originally born in Lancaster.
No, I'm not an
raised,
original born and bred Lancastrian.
So that's that, so coming into this community and the relationships that you've established and the people that you've met, I feel like you've even been intentional in that journey. And so, if there's one thing that I've noticed in this, is the intentionality of how you put this together. And the other article that we're going to see soon is about starting a writing practice again.
Yes.
Again, the vulnerability. So Janine was looking to integrate this Writing Wednesdays or Wednesday. I don't want to
Writing Wednesdays.
Writing
You did it
Wednesday.
right. Yeah.
But the reality of life.
Shut it down.
So, we put these expectations and kind of going back, but tell us about the writing and the Writing Wednesdays that have evolved to writing.
It's still Writing Wednesdays.
Writing Wednesday,
but
okay.
it's different. So it's not like a daily, at first there was a calendar that was uniquely created, and it was like, boom, this is something that you're going to do.
Yeah.
And I realized that I had to work smarter, not harder. And it was interesting because I said, when I first launched it, I didn't want it to be a challenge.
Yes.
And I was like, well, why do we call it a practice and not a challenge? And that's another article. But the reason behind that is that oftentimes when it comes to writing, I think that everyone can write.
Yes.
I've been an editor and a writing coach for many years, and there's always someone who says, I'm not a good writer, and I always got F's in school, and I'm just a bad writer. I'm not a good storyteller. And then they come and they meet with me, and I'm like, you are amazing.
Right.
And I'm not lying. Every single time, I'm genuinely shocked by how much people have that idea, but it's because of that perfection. I want to be so great at it. I want to do it every day. And so I call it a writing practice because there's so much that you're going to learn through the journey of writing.
Right.
So for the first book that I wanted to do as a part of this, I said, what if Writing Wednesdays was not about me teaching people how to write, but what if I use the resources that I learned how to write from, like Julia Cameron and Anne Lamott would be the next book. But right now we're starting off with The Artist's Way. And she very much aligned with Soul Food Mondays now that I think about it, because she talks about how spirituality and creativity are married together.
Yes.
And so I love that idea that, once again, the practice, the journey of living, of writing, of creating is celebrating life and celebrating the creator, however you'd like to envision that creator, whether it's like a benevolent being in your mind, celebrating that. And it's a practice. You're invited. So even if you don't do your morning pages every day, or even if your morning pages are just you journaling, then that's Writing Wednesdays. And even if you just want to follow along and see how well or how much I cried while I was doing it.
There you have it. You know? She's going to share the embarrassing losses as well as the small wins.
You know, because every time I write an article, I've been a professional writer for a while, I always have this dark night of the soul where I'm like, I'm not a good writer. And so getting out of the habit of holding myself to such high standards, getting it done, and choosing to practice and play. That's how we started out with learning as children. We learn through play. And I do believe that adults learn through play as well.
We do, but we just don't. We don't do it anymore.
We don't.
Because, that's what we did when we were kids. So now Writing Wednesdays have evolved to sort of Writing Wednesday Book Club. And so you said, Anne Lamott is going to be the next book. And, I'm sure you're open to other book recommendations as well.
100%.
But what I love is that it is sort of at your pace, whatever place you come in is okay. And I think the more we grow and evolve as people, as a society, as a community, the understanding that, perfect is the enemy of good, or perfect is the enemy of great. And, it's someone said to me, and you mentioned it, you start small, but start. So I just love how everything that I read, and it's coming soon, was really about showing up and showing up right where you are, and how you are embraced, how you are encouraged, and how you are supported, loved, and welcomed. And that I had to share this with the Lancaster community because, again, Janine's a transplant, however, has just come in to our community, and like so many others have made Lancaster County home and are bringing traditions and other influences into this already diverse community that we have, and it's just wonderful to have you. So we're going to have the Soul Food Mondays, we're going to have the Writing Wednesdays. I wrote down something else, with Fridays, and so something sort of every day that you can check in and you can read the blog, and there's a Facebook page. So there's a little bit of a soft launch, Instagram. So we are going to have more information that will be on the LCTV site to give you all the information about Janine James and Soul Food Mondays. And we want you to check her out. We want you to follow. We want you to engage. And we really want you to support what's going on, where you can just show up, you can read, you can converse, you can cry. But most importantly, you can smile and you can just be who you are. Janine, thank you for joining us today. I really appreciate hearing from you. I'm super excited for this next chapter, this next adventure. And folks, stay tuned for more information. We're going to give you all of Janine James and Soul Food information, Soul Food Mondays information. So check in, stay tuned. I'm Jennifer Powell. Thank you for joining us today on Take a Look.